Welcome back to this week's episode of A Football's Destiny, presented by Fortune Sports. I'm Hunter. This is John. We're going to be talking about none other than the NFC East this week.
Woo! My division. I can't wait.
We're going to make this quick. It'll be a 7-minute episode. There's not much to talk about.
That's fucked.
But before we get to the NFC East, some around the league news. John, take it away.
The Panthers running back Rashad Penny retired from the NFL after 6 seasons. He was drafted in the first round by the Seahawks in 2018. Never really lived up to the hype. He had some injury issues for sure. Get signed with the Panthers this offseason, but during training camp, something must happen. He's like, yeah, this is enough for me. I'm calling it quits.
He started his career off really hot. A name that 2018, 2019, even into the 2020 season.
He had a pretty good season last year with the Eagles coming in, spelling, in their running back committee that they love to run.
Yep.
But
yeah,
happy retirement.
Those days in Seattle were very few.
Thank you for your service.
Next thing is NFL proposed and approved some new rules for onside kicks. All onside kicks must be announced now. You can't, no surprise onside kicks.
That fucking sucked.
Cannot happen until the fourth quarter.
The
The only team that's allowed to perform them is the team that's trailing. A little different. Sean Payton in that Super Bowl halftime came out, surprise onside. No more of that shit.
Yeah, dude, that's the biggest thing about it because
this is going to be a one season and done thing.
The statistics behind the onside kicks, like obviously it's like 93% in favor of the team that is receiving.
Yeah.
The only time that 7% was a real thing was the surprise. So
Pat McAfee behind the twisty kicks.
So what I think they should do after this season is pick up the UFL rule, which is same thing, like only can happen in the fourth quarter. Only the losing team can do it. But it's a 4th and 12 play from your own 28-yard line.
And then if you
get it, then you can just
going.
Continue the drive, yes.
Okay. So
it's risky though because
we're just picking up all UFL rules now and bringing them over to the NFL.
Respectfully, but it is risky because it is from your own 28-yard line. So if you don't get it, it flips. But I mean, if you think about failed onside kick, they were getting it at like about the 40, 50. 35.
Yeah.
Like on
50
your side
if it bounces.
Yeah, like on this side of the field. So like it's really not that much of a difference. So I would like to see them pick that up next season. We'll see how this one goes.
This is going to be a one and done rule. I don't see this being passed next year. If they end up implementing anything, it'll be something similar to that. I think they'll make it a little bit more in favor of the kicking team.
Yeah,
maybe like 4th and 12 from the 35 or something.
Or like
40.
4th and 15, like make it like a little bit more like even, But we'll see how it goes. Obviously, with the new kickoff rules, they had to come up with something new for the onside kick. So this is what they decided to do. And, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how kickoffs are going to change the dynamic of the NFL this year.
We are recording this episode in the afternoon of Thursday, August 1st. As of yesterday, Tristan Wirfs became the highest-paid offensive lineman in NFL history. Received $28.1 million annually, which is $100,000 more a year than Penei Sewell was receiving.
It's pretty
5
funny.
years, $140 million, worth every goddamn penny.
I 100% agree with you, but I think it's funny because I know damn well the Buccaneers organization was like, we're going to pay him that 28.1s to make him the highest paid,
Absolutely,
like
deserves it.
Just stick that in there.
And it's not that Penei Sewell doesn't deserve to be.
True.
But
both of them.
He got paid first.
Both of them were very good young offensive linemen, very well deserved.
We talked about Jordan Love's deal last week.
Yes, sir.
So, highest paid player in NFL history.
Yeah, so obviously we could go so much in depth with what's going on in training camp around the NFL right now, but we would be here for about 6 hours talking about every single team, about what we've seen in practice and whatnot. So that's to do your research on your own time. We're going to talk about the NFC East now, and there's a lot to get to because it's my division. I love it. And guess who we're going to start with? We're going in order of the division winners and records that they had last year. So obviously the Cowboys, as the division winner, was number 1. So let's talk about them. They didn't do shit in free agency. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, man. They signed linebacker Eric Kendricks. He's a very old man, but he should be able to head a good linebacking core. He signed a 1-year deal from the Chargers. We re-signed cornerback Jordan Lewis. And then my man, Zeke Elliott, running back, coming back to the Dallas Cowboys on a 1-year deal. I really hope that they don't use him like he's 2016 Zeke. He needs to be in a committee with this guy, Rico Dowdle, who also re-signed on a 1-year deal. Respectfully, outside of that, we didn't do anything else in free agency. Jerry Jones, before free agency started, said we're going balls to the wall.
Splash.
Yeah, we are going 100 miles an hour, and we ran straight into the wall.
Some very key pieces that you guys lost in free agency. I'm going to jump down a couple here. Center Tyler Biotish to division rival Washington Commanders. John cried for, was it like 6, 7, 8,
at least
8 weeks after.
Wisconsin boy.
Dallas
Drafted
Cowboy.
in the 4th round by the Dallas Cowboys. I thought he was our next Travis Frederick for years and years to come. Very sad for him to leave, but good luck in Washington.
Man got his money, 3-year, $30 million deal.
I wish he would have went to a non-division team so I could kind of root for him a little bit more, but I respect the play.
2 other people that actually, I guess, Dorrance Armstrong joined him in Washington.
You know why that is? You know who the new head coach of the Washington Commanders is?
It's Quinn.
Yep, Dan Quinn, the former defensive coordinator of the Cowboys. So he was able to get some of these guys to come on in with him into Washington.
So both of those boys heading on over to Washington. Something a little surprising to me with his injuries. Obviously, that was what forced him into retirement. But Leighton Vander Esch, his neck injuries. Obviously, again, one of those guys came into the league, led the league in tackles as a rookie.
It's tough.
Hasn't been the same. His neck.
Yeah, obviously he's kind of known as the guy that wears like the cowboy collar, you know. And I mean, for good reason. He's had neck injuries in the past, and he had 2 major ones in his NFL career. So respectfully, if I had something similar, I'd be like, yeah, I think I'm gonna call it quits too.
Cowboy legend. 2 guys that are still free agents. One of them makes sense. Stephon Gilmore is getting a little older. Free agent, hasn't signed with anyone. Might end up back at Cowboy.
He'll sign with somebody. I hope it's the Cowboys. We could use the corner depth, but we don't really need him to start with Trayvon and Deron Bland now on the outside. You got Jordan Lewis and one of our rookies, second-year players coming in the slot to back that up. We could just use Stephon Gilmore as like a nickel dime package corner. So I hope he comes back.
Locker room
But
guy.
if he's not back yet already, I would have to guess he's going to go wait and sign with a Super Bowl contender or maybe somebody who gets injured, during training camp or early on in the season.
Juwan Curse as well, so another person in that secondary that this last year, the Cowboys secondary obviously led the league in interceptions, and I'm surprised Dak didn't lead the league in interceptions too, but...
Well, I have a clip of you somewhere saying that.
Hey,
I just have to go through the internet and find it.
He still had 10.
Respectfully, not the most.
Yeah. You said he wasn't going to have 10.
True. He had 9, I think.
Yeah, but then he threw 3 in the postseason. You want to talk about that?
No,
Packers game?
I don't know.
We can
skip that.
We can put that video over this video, remind folks.
Nope, that's in the back of my head.
A couple other people we talked about. 2 of these already. Offensive tackle Tyron Smith came over and joined the Super Bowl champs. And Lyle Collins left to my division rival, Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, both of those guys they started their careers really great. And obviously Tyron Smith's a Hall of Famer. He's been great the entire time. Lyle Collins came in, was really good for the Cowboys for a few years. He has since fallen off.
They both have just been injury prone.
Yeah, so.
And running back Tony Pollard left for the Tennessee Titans.
I'm kind of sad about this.
The Tennessee Titans have kind of reset their entire board.
Yeah, outside of Will Levis being their quarterback, everything else got reshuffled around. But so Tony Pollard will be the starting running back for
You were sad about
Titans.
this until Zeke came back.
I still am a little sad about it. The Tony Pollard experiment did not work, of him being like the workhorse running back 1. Would I like them to try to maybe sign him to a 1 or 2 year deal to try it again with a more of a committee? Still have him as the featured back, but bring some other guys in, because last year it was just him, and then Rico Dowdle played a little bit, I would have liked to try to see that, but I guess with Zeke coming back, Rico in there, Deuce Vaughn's there, they got Royce Freeman signing free agency. There's going to be a combination of all 4 of those backs just rotating in and out for the Cowboys this year.
Looks like
which is a different approach from since 2016. We've run one bell cow. Even before that, with DeMarco Murray and of the all the way back to Emmitt Smith,
Absolutely.
it was one running back team. You know, like you work that guy and then you spelled a couple times. But now it's the first time probably since I've been really watching Dallas Cowboys that it'll be a rotational backfield.
Another rotational piece on your guys' defense seems to be gone.
Yeah, three defensive linemen leaving. Some of them are joining Dan Quinn over there in Washington, and others are dispersed. So I like it, though, because it's kind of tough because Micah Parsons, obviously on the DN, he likes to rush the passer, and he's damn good at it. But I would like to see him move around a little bit, and we lost a lot of our depth on the D-line, and reports out of training camp are saying that Michael Parsons is going to move around a little bit more. I wish we would have experimented with that more while we had D-line depth. But next man up. These young guys are going to get some work.
You can put that man anywhere on the field, standing up middle linebacker or
defensive end. He'll find a way to make a play.
On all four.
Yeah. Yep, he'll find a way to make a play.
No significant trades
Not at
for
all.
the Cowboys this offseason. So, John, what is your biggest offseason takeaway for the Cowboys?
We re-signed Zeke. There he is, getting ready to work right now. But outside of that, we did absolutely nothing else. I'm happy with the draft because the Cowboys have been pretty damn good at it recently. Our track record over the last decade has been pretty good.
But
for the love of Jesus, Jerry Jones, please pay Mr. Cedarian DeLeon Lamb, please. Whatever he wants. $35 million a year-ish, that would be great. Also, something that maybe not a lot of people know, but outside of Cowboys fans, but look out for third-round pick last year, DeMarvion Overshown. He tore his ACL in the preseason last year against the Seahawks. Very tough, but he should be in line to take Leighton Vander Esch's spot this season. So be on the lookout for him.
On to the Philadelphia Eagles.
You can talk about them, yeah, because they're gross.
A couple people that they signed in free agency, linebacker Bryce Huff from the New York Jets. Kind of did a swap. We got Hassan Reddick. They got Bryce Huff. There was a couple other incidentals in there. Hassan Reddick needs to show up for camp, but that's a different division. They also signed one of the best running backs in the league, Saquon Barkley from the New York Giants. Normally, I don't see these interdivision.
Especially like a blockbuster signing like that.
To a 3-year, $37 million deal, right in that $12 million range. That's pretty much the running back market.
The cap running back market
other
right
than
now.
Christian McCaffrey.
Respectfully.
Also, safety, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson from the Detroit Lions.
I'm not tripping. He used to go by CJ, but now he wants to go by Chauncey. So, like,
That's it. I always there for a second.
Yeah, I always throw that off. But he was on the Eagles, then went to Detroit. Now he's back on the Eagles. So.
Hey, and they gave him his bag. Linebacker Devin White on a 1-year deal. Not who he once was, but still a formidable linebacker.
Good enough.
And 2 more New York Jets. Offensive tackle Mekhi Becton, which I was a little distraught about, and then we went and drafted and got Tyron Smith. We're good. Moses Morgan. And tight end CJ Uzama. So.
Yeah, I brought up Uzama there because I didn't know that he was gone now. So it's Conklin's tight end room now.
I can't say that they didn't get better adding a guy like Saquon Barkley, but the rest of these pieces.
Yep, that they lost in free agency. 2 huge ones to retirement. Probably their best offensive and defensive player in Eagles history, I would argue.
Defensive tackle Fletcher Cox.
And center Jason Kelce, which I think his brother Travis is on his way out soon as well. But
he signed a 3-year deal.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that later. But Jason Kelce, welcome to retirement. Awesome. Everybody in the Eagles organization. Everybody in the Eagles organization really thought or was hoping that he at least come back for 1 more year. But every time somebody says that, it's like 1 more, and then next year comes around, hey, dude, do 1 more.
Then he's there for 3 years.
Yeah, so he got out when he wanted to.
He's enjoying retirement. He's got girls that are very young age, so he gets to be at home and play dad now. Obviously, him and Travis are involved in a lot of investments together.
Yeah,
so.
and they still do their New Heights get together, so respectfully. It's all good in the hood.
They lost in free agency, which they upgraded anyways. Running back DeAndre Swift to Chicago.
Tough.
We'll talk about them
in 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yep. Safety Kevin Byard also left for Chicago. Been seeing this a lot recently. Teammates going other places together. And I didn't even know this. Marcus Mariota is a Washington Commander.
It's a good guy. We'll get to it a little bit, but it's a good guy that Jaden Daniels can learn from.
I actually really like that. I had no idea that he was in Washington.
The Eagles also made some interesting trades this offseason, I'm not going to lie.
So,
this first one is the most interesting.
We'll talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers next week, but Kenny Pickett got traded from Pittsburgh to the Eagles. He is now backing up Jalen Hurts.
They got a 4th-round pick out of it.
4th round in exchange for a 3rd-round pick in 2024, which would have been this year.
Yep.
And then a pair of 2025 7th. So, I mean, I don't think anyone loses or wins this trade. I think it was pretty even.
It's just weird to me because obviously the Eagles already signed Jalen Hurts to his big boy extension.
Yep.
So, like...
Well, and Kenny Pickett was QB1 in Pittsburgh.
That's why I don't really get, like...
should have been, but...
I don't know if they're thinking they can develop Kenny Pickett or if it's just like a bridge year for that. Like, I don't understand why you'd go out and trade him. Like, I can understand when Kenny Pickett's, like, contract was up. Yeah. They could be like, he's a good young quarterback. He can back up Jalen Hurts. But to go out and, like, trade for him is interesting to me.
We did briefly touch on this. They did trade away defensive end Hassan Reddick to the Jets, who still hasn't shown up for camp. I think that's the third week in a row we've talked about that. They did trade him in exchange for a 2026 3rd-round pick that can become a 2nd round if he plays a certain amount of games or if he's a all-pro or any of the all-pros.
All the legal jargon.
My biggest offseason takeaway for the Eagles is that they cannot implode like they did last year. You want to see it. You'd love to see an implosion week 1.
Yeah, they could go 6-11 for all I care. I'd be cool with that.
But yeah, last year they started 10-0, lose to a Zach Wilson-led Jets team. The Jets defense, obviously, again, no slouch, and then to finish the season 11-6. Again, people were expecting an absolute shootout at the end of the year between the Eagles and Cowboys. Cowboys end up winning the division by 2 games. So,
yeah, it's tough. Something happened to them in the midseason that made them fall apart because they were 9-1. They go ahead and win against the Kansas City Chiefs, in Arrowhead. And I was like, holy shit, these guys are fucking good. To be fair, the games that they lost, Cowboys, 49ers, decent Seahawks-looking team, but you also throw in a loss to the Giants in there as well. It's a bad look. And the only game that they won from going 10-1 to 11-6 was a Giants win by like 5 points.
Yeah, in Philly.
Yeah. So obviously it'll be interesting to see. They got a tough week 1 matchup in Brazil against the Packers. So which Eagles team is going to show up? Is it the 10-1 team that we saw early on last year, or is it the 11-6 team that was falling apart and lost to the Buccaneers? Gave Baker Mayfield a playoff win.
When you have an equalizer like Saquon Barkley on your team, that should propel them from 11-6 to a 13-win team. But it's the other intangibles, Jalen Hurts, turnover issues.
Their defense, secondary fell apart. James Bradbury, Darius Slay, when they went to the Super Bowl, both of those guys were all pro caliber corners. Last year, not so much. Darius Slay was okay. James Bradbury was horrible. Yeah. And actually they addressed that in the draft that we'll talk about later on in the episode. All right, let's talk about the New York Football Giants, who seemed like they made the playoffs a couple years ago. You thought they were actually figured it out.
Gave Daniel Jones an absolute bag. Decided not to sign Saquon Barkley.
And now they're just trickling downhill again. But we'll talk about who they signed.
These are the guys that they think that are going to get it done for them.
True. They signed guard John Runyon from the Green Bay Packers on 3-year, $30 million deal. Kind of the mid to higher tier offensive lineman. Seems like that's their threshold is 3 years, $30 million. Tyler Biadasz got the same thing. Yep. Now we got John Runyon here.
So who did they sign to replace Saquon Barkley? They had to have went and got tier 1 running back, right?
Yeah, you thought if they're just going to let Saquon walk, they'd get somebody good. They did. Devin Singletary from Houston. They signed him on a 3-year, $16 million deal. He had a decent year in Houston last year, But to get a 3-year deal and to replace Saquon Barkley, that's
Did they sign someone else?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully Daniel Jones can run the ball.
Then offensive tackle, Jermaine Illuminor.
From the Raiders.
2 years, $14 million. I need to get better at these name pronunciations.
Yeah, you should probably just pronounce them a couple times
Yeah.
before we actually get on episode.
Nah, bro. We like to wig it around here.
And quarterback Drew Lock from the Seattle Seahawks on a 1-year deal.
Who I think is going to be replacing Daniel Jones pretty early on in the season if things don't go well.
Most of that guaranteed money for Daniel Jones is in the first 3 years of that contract.
Yeah, actually, next year, they have an out of his contract. Like, if they could just cut it. They have some dead cap for sure. But they could just say goodbye to Daniel Jones.
Disrespect on your name. Goodbye, Daniel Jones.
So this is the year for Daniel Jones, and it's funny because I brought up the Eagles losing to Seahawks last year.
Yeah.
It wasn't even Geno Smith leading the charge. It was interdivisional Drew Lock. And our 2017 victory against the Eagles in Week 15 last year. Threw 22 for 33, 208 yards and a touchdown.
So what you're telling me is that Drew Lock can teach Daniel Jones a thing or two.
How to beat the Eagles. That's a big thing, hopefully.
There we go.
We'll see how it goes.
A couple people they lost in free agency. Didn't see this one coming out of left field at all. Tight end Darren Waller retired to his rap career. If you haven't seen that, Spotify, check that out.
Yikes.
That's exactly how that describes. Dude should have kept playing football.
Facts.
He had some personal stuff going on.
I respect it. I'm not.
We're talking
talking
about football today,
Yeah.
though. Xavier McKinney went to the Green Bay Packers on a 4-year, $67 million deal.
Fat bag.
One of the best safeties in the league. I wouldn't want to be on the Giants either.
And that was the replacement for Jonathan Owens.
I'm calling it now.
Simone Biles.
Jets, Packers,
Husband.
Super Bowl. Is there a better script than that?
We can talk about the Packers in 2 weeks. I don't want to talk about the Packers.
We're talking about them right now.
I don't want to.
Is there a better script than that?
No, there
Absolutely
isn't.
not.
No.
Running back, Saquon Barkley. We already talked about this.
Going to the Eagles.
Let him walk to the Eagles. Not even trade him.
Hop, skip, and a jump over there.
Crazy. Not even a franchise tag.
Defensive end Ashawn Robinson goes over to the Carolina Panthers on a 3-year, $22 million deal. I was kind of surprised about this because his name's been floating around a lot. Cornerback Adoree Jackson is a free agent still.
Free agent.
So he had like a $12 million-ish cap hit for the Giants last year. So I was like, if they're paying him $12 million a year, he's got to be kind of good. I'm surprised he hasn't signed to a team yet. But we'll see.
This was their best move of the offseason, in my opinion. They traded for defensive end Brian Burns from Carolina.
Crazy.
2024 second and fifth round pick and a 2025 conditional fifth rounder. They then proceeded to pay him 5 years, $150 million with $87 million guaranteed. I think it's like $30 million signing bonus. So that's already $120 million that he's getting right there out of the $150.
Facts.
Again, Brian Burns has been a guy in Carolina. I mean, if he's already not used to winning.
He's used to not winning, so if he's going to do some more of that on the Giants as well. But at least he's getting paid while doing it. Respectfully. Okay, in real talk,
that New Jersey tax is crazy, though.
In real talk, though, Brian Burns is one of the top defenders in the NFL. He was on a Carolina Panthers team, leading them for a long time. Obviously, they're still in the middle of a 25-year. No, I'm just kidding. Not that long. Obviously, Cam Newton exists. They're in the middle of a 15-year rebuild, and except 1 or 2 years of greatness from Cam Newton. And so Brian Burns got out of there.
He wants to get paid.
And got paid from the New York Giants, who's also probably going to be in a rebuild for the next few years.
The takeaway for the Giants, John and I pretty much feel the same. This team's going to be mediocre. This Daniel
At
Jones,
best.
we already talked about it briefly. There's an out after this next season.
I can see them exercising that for sure. 4 years, $160 million for Daniel Jones. Everybody thought they were fucking crazy.
Boom or bust.
Respectfully, he led him to the playoffs. That was good enough apparently in their eyes to get this $160 million contract. For him, he's showing me the money.
Again, I always go back to this. If getting to the playoffs is good enough, then Brock Purdy is worth $1 billion.
Literally, where he's gonna get that $300+ million extension next year.
$65 million a year.
That's insane. But it's now or never.
Dak will probably get it too.
Yeah, actually, probably.
Yeah.
It's now or never for Daniel Jones and the Giants here. Losing Saquon obviously sucks, and you didn't get much better in the running back room. You're going to be mediocre at best. That's just the bottom line. And it's an unfortunate experience for New York Giants fans. I also still, kind of similar to Patriots fans, I don't feel sorry from you. You stole a Super Bowl from Tom Brady way back when Eli Manning was Hall of Famer, is going to be a Hall of Famer.
2 of them.
Yep, so I don't feel sorry for you.
Actually, random Giants fact since we're talking about him. Eli Manning never won a playoff game in the years that he didn't win the Super Bowl.
So he either went all the way to the Super Bowl and won, or
all
none.
or nothing.
That's crazy. Didn't know that about him.
And the 2 years that he decided, he was like, yeah, I'm going to beat Tom Brady this year. Tom Brady would have 10 Super Bowls if, what is their dad's name? Arch, right?
Yeah, Archie.
Yeah. If his dad pulled out and Nick Foles' mom pulled out, Tom Brady would have 10 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Clip that.
That's fucked.
On to the basement from the division this last year, the Washington Commanders. They will not be in the basement this year.
Yeah, I don't think so
either.
either.
They're going to finish third. The Giants are going to finish last.
I agree.
We talked about this a little bit earlier. There was a lot of movement specifically from Atlanta and Dallas players following head coach Dan Quinn over. We talked about Dorrance Armstrong heading over and Tyler Biotish. A couple other guys that they got in free agency. Frankie Louvu,
I would say.
Frankie Louvu from the Panthers. They signed guard Nick Allegretti. These names are tough.
Yeah, dude.
From the Kansas City winning Chiefs. Running back Austin Eckler. That's, in my opinion, pretty much their biggest signing this offseason.
Yeah, but he was pretty ass last year.
I think that was just Staley.
See, part of me wants to agree with you, but there is that clip of Austin Eckler playing against the Packers, running down the sidelines in previous years. Austin Eckler would have scored a touchdown on that. He looked slow, like slower than molasses on that play.
Sometimes all people need is a change of scenery.
Grass sometimes is greener on the other side. Not always, though.
The grass is probably a little more humid in Washington than it is in LA, but I digress.
Maybe a little bit more green.
Sometimes, certain parts of the year. It's a little colder over there. Certain parts of the year.
It could be covered in snow every once in a while.
And safety, Jeremy Chin, also from the Carolina Panthers. So, was Dan Quinn ever in Carolina? He got quite a few Panthers to follow him over there.
Yeah, Dan Quinn obviously is a big name. He's the defense coordinator for the Cowboys over the last few seasons. He's been offered. Yeah, he was head coach of the Atlanta Falcons when they lost 28-3. That's tough.
When they lost that lead.
Yep. He comes over from Dallas. Obviously, he's turned down numerous head coaching jobs before. I guess Washington was just too sweet, or maybe he was just fed up with the Cowboys after losing in the playoffs every year. Okay, anyways. Let's talk about who they lost in free agency. Wide receiver Curtis Samuel. What?
Did that sting?
Yeah.
Did it say?
Just a little bit. Wide receiver Curtis Samuel is going over to the Buffalo Bills on a 3-year, $24 million deal. If you want to hear us talk about the Buffalo Bills and their free agent signings, look at the episode from last week. I'm going to talk about the AFC East, which is Hunter's favorite division with the New York Jets, respectfully. Also, quarterback Kendall Fuller came over from Miami.
Nope.
Going to Miami, excuse me. All right. Kendall Fuller is going to Miami, which we talked about last week as well. And Antonio Gibson. You replace Antonio Gibson with Austin Eckler. I would say that's an upgrade for the most part. He's going over to New England. And then safety Cameron Curl went over to the Los Angeles Rams on a 2-year deal.
The Washington Commanders traded away quarterback Sam Howell
Thank you.
to the Seattle Seahawks. This quarterback room, obviously, lots of shuffling. Went and drafted Jaden Daniels. We'll get to that in a moment.
A lot of QBs moving. Now Marcus Mariota is with the Washington Commanders. Sam Howell's out of town. He's in Seattle. Drew Lock comes over from Seattle to the New York Giants. So lots of shuffling here. It's kind of interesting though. Like that's a lot of draft capital moving around for a guy in Sam Howell who, for a while, was leading the league in touchdown passes and yards.
Passing yards, yeah.
But then probably led the league in interceptions and definitely hit a nosedive because they were just throwing the ball all over the field.
He was up there in sacks too, so it was just one of those when you're throwing the ball 45 times a game.
Yeah,
you should be leading the league.
Yeah, you're going to lead the league in yards and interceptions and sacks, probably. More likely than that.
Jameis Winston have an ass.
Yeah, literally, bro. All right, let's talk about biggest offseason takeaway for the Washington Commanders.
Obviously, we'll touch on the draft here in a second, taking Jaden Daniels second overall. A guy who just came off winning the Heisman, Again, proved himself at LSU after having a absolute dumpster fire beginning of career at Arizona State, being able to go to the Tigers, damn near lead them, to contention, at least, and to win the Heisman.
Which is hard to do after a guy named Joe Burrow left there.
Yeah.
So to come in after that, have a good career at LSU, win the Heisman. Not everybody gets to say they've done that. But it'll be interesting to see, because if Jaden Daniels can surprise some people, the Commanders might be better than we think, than the rest of the world thinks. But again, it all depends on the play of the rookie quarterback. Obviously, nobody had the Texans as high as what they were last year. Nobody
thought C.J. Stroud was going to be the best quarterback in the draft either.
Exactly. So it all depends on the play of Jaden Daniels.
People think that Caleb Williams is going to be
I do.
I'm
one of those guys.
But there's going to be someone that's keeping up with him.
Definitely.
A name that we don't think right now.
Respect. All right.
It ain't going to be Drake May.
We're going to talk about our record predictions for the NFC East for this season, but let's talk about last season first. The Cowboys went 12-5.
The Eagles were 11-6.
Giants 6-11.
And the Commanders went a measly 4-13.
Yeah, pretty ass, I'm not going to lie. But this season, I'm going to have the Cowboys repeating last year, going 12-5 and winning the division yet again. The Eagles have too many question marks. Did they get better? 100%. The question marks of which team's going to show up. You had your top two guys retire. What is that going to look like? They can this can be interchangeable, because I have the Eagles going 11-6, same as last year. And then this is where I have a little bit of turmoil here. The Commanders are going to go 6-11. That's going to be not as bad as last year. I could even see them, if depending on the play of Jaden Daniels, winning 8 games, but we'll see how that goes. And then the Giants going 5-12. Drew Lock will be the starter by the end of the season. Daniel Jones will have $80 million in dead cap. It's going to be an ugly situation if you're a Giants fan.
Usually it's John that's giving his team the extra couple yards when we're watching a game, or being like, oh yeah, he threw for 7,000 yards that one year. I actually have the Cowboys going 14-3, 2 more wins than John has them. I don't think that there's really going to be anything that stops them this year. This last year, undefeated at home until... Not undefeated at home. That wins you 8-9 games, depending on.
We went 8-1 at home, including the playoffs.
Oh well, yeah. I thought you said you didn't want to talk about
I brought this up like 3 times.
We're talking about the regular season right now, John.
Right,
okay, I have the Cowboys.
You're right. We're great in the regular season, bro.
I have them Cowboys going 14-3. I have the Eagles finishing the same as last season at 11-6. The Commanders, I'm actually going to have finishing 5-12. They'll win the head-to-head against the Giants both times. And then I'll have the Giants at 4-13. So, funny enough, damn near the finished rankings from last season flipped the Giants and Commanders. And
I mean, arguably, all these teams are like, when you lose people and you bring some people in and the rookies or whatever, they look pretty similar to how the hierarchy is supposed to be for this season, just different players in position. So it doesn't surprise me that we have the record predictions about the same as they were last year.
Geno's the guy in Seattle. We were talking about that whole thing, all that quarterback carousel. Having a guy like Sam Howell to be able to back up Geno Smith, it's crazy that through week 14 he led the league. They went 4-13. He led the league in
passing. Yeah, he was passing yards touchdowns for a long time. Passing touchdowns earlier in the year,
and then he probably ended up leading the league in interceptions.
Yeah,
probably why the 4-13 instead of 7-10. But yeah, I think that they have the best potential to make a jump this year.
For sure, compared to the rest. The Cowboys and Eagles should be about the same as they have been the last few seasons.
Yep.
For sure. All right, let's go and jump into the NFL draft. We're going to go in order of record, just like we always do from last season. So we're going to talk about my team, the Dallas Cowboys, right away. So round 1, pick 29, they traded back with Detroit, and they got offensive tackle Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma. The Cowboys are known for striking gold when it comes to offensive linemen. You can go all the way back to Travis Frederick, Zach Martin days, coming all the way up to Tyler Smith a couple of years ago. Obviously, everybody was kind of like question marks about Tyler Smith early on. Same thing. Tyler Guyton, some question marks. obviously the Cowboys know what they're doing. He played right tackle at Oklahoma, but he will be replacing Tyron Smith at left tackle for the boys this season. It's going to be some growing pains. I'm okay with it. Let the rookie learn, and I think by midway point into the season, he'll lock on that left side.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that's Dak's blind side, so.
He's going to have to be good. Somebody over there has got to be good. They're replacing a future Hall of Famer, so big shoes to fill. But I'm confident in Tyler Guyton to be able to get it done.
Thanks for Tyron Smith again, by the way. I'm excited for the 7.5 games he's going to play for the Jets this season.
You better enjoy those 7.5 games. All right, let's talk about round 2, pick 56. I didn't really think this guy was going to get a lot of playing time until about a couple weeks ago. Defensive end Marshawn Nealand out of Western Michigan. With 3 D-line departures and DeMarcus Lawrence on the last year of his deal, Cowboys were in desperate need of this position. Also, just a couple days ago, defensive end Sam Williams, second-round pick in 2022, tore his ACL in practice. He's done for the year. Before they even put pads on, bro tore his ACL. It's so tough. And also last year's 4th-round pick, Junior Fehoko, did not play a damn snap last year at all. But both of these guys are going to have to get some playing time starting this year because of these injuries, because of the departures. So I could definitely see Marshawn Nealand coming in and rushing when Micah Parsons wants to play or they want him to play that middle linebacker role. He's going to be the guy stepping up and rushing the passer. So hopefully good things come from him. Round 3, pick 73, offensive lineman Cooper Beebe out of Kansas State. So I say offensive lineman because he played literally every position on the offensive line except center. And guess who he's going to be playing on the Dallas Cowboys? He's replacing Tyler Biadasz at center, which is kind of crazy. But he has the skills to do it. He was 2-time Big 12 Offensive Lineman of the Year. And even if the Cowboys are going to start him at center this year, Zach Martin's getting up there in age, even if he is aging like fine wine. So he's going to play center this year, and BB's natural position is going to be at guard, so I could see a couple years down the line he'll be switching back over to that guard spot whenever Zach Martin wants to call it quits.
Cooper Beebe.
Yep, I was very happy with this pick. I think he was very great. Very great pick, especially in the 3rd round.
Also in the 3rd round.
I really should have practiced this name. Martis Lufau, Notre Dame. Probably not a starter this year, but he will be in a linebacking room that is very young outside of Eric Kendricks, so wouldn't be surprised if I saw him on the field this year. Just knowing how the Cowboys like to move defenders around. Obviously, nobody knew who the hell Deron Bland was until, midway through the season, a 5th-round pick coming out of nowhere and breaking the NFL record on pick sixes in a season. So I wanted to throw this guy in there because with a very big question marks in the linebacking core, this guy out of Notre Dame.
Yeah, with a guy like
Lufau.
Yeah, with a guy like Eric Kendricks, could see some playing time early just to keep Eric.
Yeah, you want to keep him healthy because he's getting older. Like you can't have him in the trenches every single play.
He's going to be your captain, so.
Facts. All right, I'll let you.
On to the Philadelphia Eagles. John hates talking about them, so I'll take this. Round 1, pick 22, they took cornerback Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo. After both Darius Slay and James Bradbury had really rough seasons at the end of last year that we were talking about, they bring in a guy that's so fast. Not sure on his size, but he runs a 4.3 340. So, being able to get a guy that can keep up with just about any of these wide receivers, especially having to play CeeDee Lamb twice a year and even, Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, Terry McLaurin. Yeah. And now you got Malik Neighbors, who we'll talk about here in a few moments, coming for
the Giants.
Yep. And then he'll get some good practice because he's got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith over there.
Other than Odell Beckham, we'll get to this, but other than Odell, the Giants' development of wide receivers has been absolute trash.
Literally.
Round 2, pick 40. Early in that 2nd round, they went and got, damn near, in my opinion, the best corner in this draft.
The Jackie Robinson opposite of football.
Cooper DeJean. He has experience both at corner and safety. He'll definitely be playing corner for the Eagles. Won Big Ten Defensive Back of the Year and also has had an impact on punt returns in his career.
And because the NFL kickoffs this year are like a punt style
Yep.
in reality, I could definitely see Cooper DeJean being the
Some backyard bullshit.
yeah, he's going to be returning kicks for the Eagles. I also want to talk about this real quick. So the Eagles went double corner
Yep.
first 2 rounds. Obviously, that screams Darius Slay, James Bradbury. You were not good enough last year. Not at all.
And you're still on my roster.
The way I think about it, too, so Quinyon Mitchell coming over from Toledo, that's a weak college football conference jumping in the NFL. I could definitely see Cooper DeJean playing at Iowa, obviously Big Ten, a little bit bigger. I could definitely see DeJean getting more reps early, but I expect both of these guys to be on the field quite early with aging Darius Slay. Pretty ass last year, James Bradbury. These guys are the future of the Eagles' corners, which, in all honesty, kind of scares me, which is why we need to go sign fucking CD Lamb to a 4-year deal right now. Okay, so let's talk about the Giants.
The Giants went and got...
I'd argue he's the second best wide receiver
The
in
second,
this draft.
yeah. And there's only one wide receiver that went before him. So that's good. Malik Neighbors from LSU. Catching balls from Jaden Daniels last year.
Let me say this real quick. ESPN says when they get a new franchise quarterback, a top receiver will already be in place. So they're already counting out Daniel Jones to be thrown to Malik Neighbors here.
They already read
Might be a rough year this year.
They already read this season's script, next season's script, the season after that.
Yeah, they're like, when they get a new franchise quarterback, he'll be good. But this season,
Malik Neighbors had 14 receiving touchdowns at LSU last year. The New York Giants, 9.
throughout
All
of
of their wide receivers. So this guy obviously brings talent to the team. Again, it's more about the guy who's going to be throwing him the ball.
Yep.
We already talked about that. Daniel Jones has got to make a step forward.
Neighbors does a lot of his damage out of the slot, which the Giants love, and struggling quarterbacks also love because you don't have to throw it super far to get it out to the receiver on the out route, way out there. You got a guy running slants and zigs in the middle of the field. That'll help for Neighbors' production in this first year. But he's going super high in fantasy football. Same thing as Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison's going like early second. Malik Neighbors is going early third. Pump the brakes on that a little bit.
Especially with who you guys know who's throwing him the ball. Come on.
Well, especially Giants-wise. You can make the argument Kyler Murray can get the ball to Marvin Harrison. Are we sure that Daniel Jones can get the ball to Malik Neighbors? I'm very, very out on that.
Slant routes all day long.
I'm very out on that. All right, let's talk about their second-round pick 47, safety Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota.
Going to be a day one starter.
Yeah, he has a chance to for sure because Xavier McKinley caught a bag with the Green Bay Packers, so he's out of there. And he's got pretty high praise from Nick Saban. He called him the best safety in the draft. And there's drawn comparisons. His pro comparison during draft day was Justin Simmons, who is still not on the team, but is an all-pro safety. So if you're getting that high praise, especially coming from a school that's pretty mediocre in Minnesota, if Nick Saban thinks you're the best safety in the draft, obviously the Giants got a good one there.
3 pick 70, another corner from Kentucky, Andrew Phillips. He spells his name Andru, Andrew.
We get creative and more creative every year.
I can't give him shit, but I can give his parents shit. The Giants only have one starting cornerback for sure. Last year's first-round pick, Deonte Banks. Every other corner spot is up for grabs, and Phillips plays a lot of slot corner, which is an essential position guarding some of the best wide receivers in the NFL. So a guy like this, round 3, pick 70, be able to come in as a day one starter.
He has a chance. They got a lot of other corners that have had NFL experience that are on this Giants roster.
You know what? This guy actually has a really good shot, though. Actually, all these corners do, because Daniel Jones throws so many fucking picks in practice that they are going to shine like diamonds. Andrew Phillips, I'm going to hit you up. Round 4, pick 107.
Yeah, I wasn't actually going to talk about this one until the news of Darren Waller retiring. Round 4, pick 107, tight end Theo Johnson out of Penn State.
Had to go get someone.
Yeah, they might go see himself becoming the starter here or getting serious playing time because Giants and just in the NFL
had just signed an extension and everything.
Yeah, they did. That's tough. But yeah, in the NFL, a lot of people like to run 2 tight end sets, and right now, other than Daniel Bellinger, who actually had a pretty good year for the Giants last year, Theo Johnson is the tight end 2, like as it shows on the depth chart. So this guy, as a 4th-round pick, going to get thrown to the wolves pretty quickly. The Washington Commanders had hella draft picks.
Yep.
I'm not going to lie to you.
And they took every opportunity they could.
Yep.
Round 1, pick 2, we talked about it a little bit before. They took the Heisman winning quarterback from LSU last year, quarterback Jaden Daniels. Again, this is just another shot in the dark. They've drafted quarterback after quarterback.
After quarterback, after
Robert
quarterback,
Griffin.
after quarterback.
They drafted Kirk Cousins. I can't even... Like, they had Taylor Heineke. They had Sam Howell.
Yeah,
like, none of these guys have worked out. The last time... I mean, Robert Griffin won Rookie of the Year, and that's the last time that they were in the playoffs a couple years ago.
Yep. It's funny that you bring that up because the last time the Commanders, Redskins organization won 10 games, over 10 games, was Robert Griffin's 10-6 season
as a rookie. Yeah.
They have not had an 11-win regular season since they won the Super Bowl in 1991.
Honest to God, didn't know that they ever even won a Super Bowl.
And they've won just 3 playoff games in that time. Also, the number is 1. That's the number of Washington quarterbacks who have been the primary starter for more than 4 seasons. Since 1985.
That's disgusting. Well, hopefully Jaden Daniels can be their guy. I know that there's a lot of questions with his weight. There's another guy that I wanted to talk about. Obviously, we talked about him last week. Xavier Worthy's just been getting tossed around in practice.
All right, round 2, pick 36 early on in the second round. They're going to take defensive tackle Jerzon Newton out of Illinois. A lot of people had this guy as a first-round pick. Fell to the second round, and the Commanders snatched him up.
Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year last year. So
7.5 sacks is great, especially as a defensive tackle. Jonathan Allen on the Commanders does not have any more guaranteed money. So they could move on from him essentially whenever. And I think that if the Commanders are subpar, I think he'll want to go to a contending team. So then that makes it so that Newton comes in and becomes the starter in place of Jonathan Allen. Obviously, all speculation as of right now, but that's where I see the season heading for the Commanders. Another first second-round pick 50, is Mike Sanderstill out of Michigan. So Washington had one of the worst pass defenses last year. They signed 3 DBs in free agency.
That's why they went 4-13.
And drafting this man, he has a chance to find a spot somewhere in that rotation.
3 picks later, round 2, pick 53, they took a tight end.
Ben Sinnott out of Kansas State.
Is it Sinnott or Sonoy?
No. I don't know.
Sinnott, Kansas State. Someone younger, bigger, and stronger than Zach Ertz, who bounced back and forth this last year.
Injury issues, old.
Should end up seeing the field immediately. Offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury likes to use a lot of two tight end sets, so
Facts. So he'll be
perfect guy for Cliff's offense.
Facts. Round 3, pick 67 was an offensive lineman, Brandon Coleman out of TCU. Their main focus is protecting their franchise quarterback, and they only have late round picks and other guys that are not NFL ready that are in their camp right now. So, Mr. Brandon Coleman, you have a really good chance to start.
They've got a center that doesn't allow a whole lot of sacks.
True that. Outside of that, see, they signed a couple for offensive linemen in free agency. The other spots looking a little crispy, to say the least. They cut their former starting left tackle, Charles Leno. He's pretty old, so it makes sense. And they don't have a full-time replacement, so Brandon Coleman looks like he'll be starting at that left tackle position, more likely than not.
Round 3, pick 100, familiar name, Mr. McCaffrey, Luke wide receiver McCaffrey. Out of Rice. This is the guy that I was telling you. I've seen a couple mock trades that include Brandon Ayuk
to come over and send
Luke McCaffrey and like a first-round pick or 2 second-rounders.
All right, Luke McCaffrey. Why not take a chance on a McCaffrey, especially in the 3rd round, when outside of Scary Terry and Jahan Dotson, who really hasn't lived up to his hype? You got no wide receivers outside of that.
If you can trade this guy in a first-round pick and get Brandon Ayuk,
that would work as well.
Then you do have wide receivers outside of Scary Terry.
Or you can take a chance on a McCaffrey and say, fuck it, let's see how he does. Obviously started as a QB, turned into a wide receiver. And the Commanders' new GM, Adam Peters was with San Francisco when they traded for Christian McCaffrey. So I saw in an interview that their families are pretty tight. So it makes sense for him to go there.
I'm excited to see him make an impact no matter where he's at. Commanders, Niners, whatever.
So the Commanders have a new ownership group, new GM, new head coach. They went out with the regime. Yep, everything's new coming into the Commanders. So we'll see what this new era of Commanders bring. But to have fucking 3 second-round picks, a top 3 first-round pick, couple of thirds, like you really jumbled up with a bunch of rookies. So
we don't have them making a huge step this year, but we kind of have them at their floor.
Yeah, like I would say they're at their floor.
They could win 7-8 games, but they're not.
I could definitely see that.
But even if they somehow squeak into the playoffs,
they're a tough division.
Look at these other teams in the NFC that they'd have to face. The Cowboys. You'd have to face teams like the Niners,
the Packers, the Lions.
So like,
yeah,
you're not quite there yet. You're getting the pieces, and again, you don't have to have the most talented guys. You have to have the guys that play the best together.
Yep, they have to have the best team. You know, it doesn't matter.
Best chemistry. So
facts.
My key takeaway is are we going to watch another Eagles implosion? The Cowboys need to win playoff games, and the Giants need to move on from Daniel Jones.
And the Commanders just need to keep doing what they're doing, because even if they're not there yet, they're on the come up.
Yeah.
All right. My final thoughts on the NFC East. I'm not going to lie. As a Cowboys fan, I was a little disappointed in our offseason, especially after hearing all the talk of, oh, we're going to make a splash. Oh, we're all in this season. And then we're not even all in on our current players because we can't fucking sign CeeDee Lamb to an extension. Dak needs money. Micah Parsons is at camp, but he's going to need money next year. We're not even all in on our current guys, so how can we be all in on bringing other pieces in? We brought back Zeke. That's cool, I guess. He'll be good enough to run a rotational running back room. But outside of that, bro, we need our wide receiver one, whether we like it or not, or else we're going to be a 4-win team. We're going to be a 6-win team. Like, we need other pieces in place. And honestly, I'm disappointed with how it happened. But one thing that I learned as a Cowboys fan, that no matter how bad it really looks, somehow they do win regular season games. And they do put themselves to be in the playoffs, honestly, over the last decade. If Dak wasn't injured, if Tony Romo isn't injured, the Cowboys have always been in playoff contention.
This last year, Dak was not injured. Dak just was ass.
He wasn't ass. He was ass in the playoffs.
That's what I'm saying specifically.
He was
in those moments.
Because
he wasn't. I'm saying he wasn't injured.
Yeah.
It just honestly, your guys' defense was ass.
Oh yeah, dude. They gave up, and then Dak
not being able
had
to
play
up
superhero.
Points. Yeah.
And that's when mistakes happen.
Yeah.
And that's how you end up down 27-0 at halftime, respectfully. So, yeah, obviously I want to spend the majority of the time talking about the Cowboys. Hunter pretty summed up the other three teams as it is. But it's now or never. So the way I think about it is, if Jerry really doesn't want to go all in on the guys that we have, blow it up. Let Dak walk or trade him. Sign Micah Parsons. You still got to sign Micah Parsons. You have to, bro. But why hasn't it happened yet? Is my biggest thing. It's August now. We're coming up on the first preseason games. Not that CeeDee Lamb was going to play in any preseason games to begin with. He needs to be there. He needs to be with the team. He's working out. He's getting ready for the season regardless. Okay, that's not the issue. It's the issue of, like you said, it's not always the best players. It's the best team.
Yep.
We need our best guys
when
there.
Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb are on the field together, CeeDee Lamb ends up with 14-plus touchdowns.
Yep, and he is over 1,700 yards, and he is a fantasy football monster.
And they're both all-pro.
But if you take one of those guys out of the equation, even just this last week, if they're not together, bro, that's a week's worth of preparation and time together that they're not having. They don't have.
That Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce have, and Rodgers and Wilson have, and
even just
Jordan Love and Christian Watson have.
Even just in our division, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown.
Yep.
it's.
I think you should be worried about the Packers,
I
not the Eagles.
I will leave you with this. As a Cowboys fan, obviously I'm used to getting my heart broken year after year because we're always so good in the regular season and lose it in the playoffs. This is the year with the lowest expectations we've had in a while because we didn't bring anybody in free agency, really. We lost a lot of our future Hall of Famers, all pros, etc. This is the year that the team has to come together and make it happen. There's not as many big names or outside noise as there used to be outside of the contract drama of CeeDee Lamb. Outside of that, it's been pretty quiet.
Dak, this might be the year that if you don't make it to an NFC Championship game, this guy might become a full-time Bears fan.
Just please. It doesn't even have to be the NFC Championship game, bro. Win a playoff game.
I got a question for you, John.
Hit me.
Is this Jerry Jones' last hurrah?
He will only leave the Cowboys on his deathbed. Yeah. Straight up.
So you got 12 more years of Jerry Jones.
So whenever the Grim Reaper comes knocking at his door, that's the only time that will be. But it doesn't even matter.
Through your prime.
It doesn't even matter because Stephen Jones is just going to take over right after that.
Yeah,
but he is a younger, more.
Yeah, he makes a little bit better.
He got brought up in a different NFL than Jerry Jones did. Yep. So I have hope and promise. Yeah, it's different for sure. But until that day comes, Jerry, please make the right decisions. That's all I'm going to say. That's my closing remark. We love you. Thank you for tuning in, as always. Next week, we're going to be talking about the AFC North, and you might see a special guest here or there in the next couple weeks. So
back-to-back weeks, we got special guests.
So stay tuned for that. But until next time, we love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care of yourselves. See you next time.
Stay safe.
Peace.
I'm just trying to get paid. Call me Odell Beckham, cause I'm always making plays. And alright, designer, bitch, Gucci, fuck your J's.